open sea, in the most southeastern part of Finland, lies the Gulf of Finland National Park. The 100 islands and islets of the national park are scattered in an area which is 60 kilometres wide and far from the mainland and inhabited islands. The diverse nature, flora, fauna, culture and history of the Gulf of Finland National Park make it an interesting destination for nature tourists and boaters. Wars have also left their mark on the park's islands. The Gulf of Finland National Park is famous for its seabird species. The area includes dozens of ideal bird islands and islets. Restricted islets provide nesting peace for the most demanding outer archipelago birds, such as the razorbill and black guillemot. These are considered the most characteristic species of the national park. Some of the bird species can only be observed during nesting because they vanish to the small islets in open sea as soon as the young learn to fly. The end of May is the best time for bird watching, as hundreds of thousands of Arctic water birds and waders fill the sky on their way to their northern nesting regions. An abundant number of bird watchers from southern Finland gather on Ristisaari Island on the southern side of Kaunissaari Island to watch the migration. The observation towers on Ulkotammio and Mustavieri also provide great views of the surrounding archipelago and migration. Great variations are typical of the nature of the Gulf of Finland. The salt content of the water determines the distribution of many species and varies according to geography and time. Due to the low salt content of brackish water, many marine species live on the extremity of their distribution in the eastern Gulf of Finland. The shore area of the national park, with rocky and stony bottoms, demonstrates the zonality of vegetation. The waterline is dominated by thread-like algae such as cladophora. A zone of bladderwrack lies somewhat deeper with meadow-like cladophora growth underneath it. It is an important spawning bed for the Baltic herring. The bottom flora becomes more scarce at greater depths due to lack of light. The deep bottoms of the open archipelago sea are populated by various benthos, the glacial relic Sidoria entomon, and other crustacean, mussels and polychaetes. Whitefish lives in the area's gravel and sand bottoms. The water also hides historical secrets. In 1763, cargo vessel Sankt Nicholas from Hamburg was sailing through the waters of Ulkotammio. The vessel came from St. Petersburg and was shipwrecked in a storm. Nils Jespersen, the coastal bailiff of Tammio, found local men from Ulkotammio chopping off iron parts of the wreck. The story goes that a bloody shirt was confiscated from one of the men at the wreck. It was suspected that the shirt belonged to a murdered member of the ship's crew. The following summer, the body of a woman who had suffered a violent death was discovered wrapped in a sailcloth on a nearby island. She had boarded the vessel in Kronstadt. Because of this, 52 men were sentenced in court, including Nils Jespersen, because he had partaken in the looting. Punishments were fines or whippings. Nobody, however, was found guilty of the killings. The most popular boating island of the national park is Ulkotammio. The island is located in the eastern part of the national park, close to the southeastern border zone. Ulkotammio is rich in plant and insect life. The Ulkotammio Nature Trail is a great way to explore the island's diverse nature that varies between dry rocks, shore vegetation, pine heath forests, shoreline meadows and swampy groves. Suuri-Piisi Island is located on the most eastern brink of the park. The island is characterised by rocks arcing gently into the water. A sheltered bay at the northern tip of the island was named after Gustaf III, King of Sweden, as Kuninkaan Boukama, King's Cove, after his visit to the island in 1777, on his way from Stockholm to St. Petersburg. The monogram of Gustaf III was hacked into a rock as a reminder of his visit. The most southern of the islands is Kilpissaari, the history of which extends to the times of autonomy. The island's defence fortifications, roads and light railway were part of the sea fortification chain of Peter the Great, with the furthermost parts extended to Uusikaupunki in the north and the Gulf of Riga in the south. There was a battery of 4 heavy Cannae guns with an ammunition depot and service buildings in Kilpissaari at the beginning of the 20th century. The historically fascinating Mustavieri is located in the most western part of the Gulf of Finland National Park. Vikings, seal hunters and fishermen have visited the island in the past, and more recently there has also been permanent settlement. There is an interesting pile of stones, a shore stone field, in the middle of the island on top of a hillock. A mysterious stone relic is situated on the flat rock of the northern shore of Mustavieri, Jatulintarha, the Giant's Maze. These labyrinths are formed by stone circles within stone circles that in their simplest form are spiral. It is believed that walking through the maze brings luck and protection. A UNESCO World Heritage Site is also located in Mustavieri. A small hole of 3 centimetres drilled into the rock is one of the surveying points of the Struve chain of survey triangulations. The purpose of the triangulation, named after the German astronomer Friedrich Georg Wilhelm Struve, was to determine the Earth's exact form and dimensions. The fascinating Struve chain is the 6th World Heritage Site in Finland to have been listed by UNESCO. This chain of surveying points is a masterpiece from times before satellite positioning. The islands of the national park have been moulded by defence fortifications built during Finland's autonomy and at various stages of the continuation war. All that is left today are several piles of stone and structures quarried into the rock. Fishing and seal hunting have been practiced in the area of the Gulf of Finland National Park since the Middle Ages. Fishing was the most important source of livelihood in the area at the beginning of the 20th century. An interesting detail can be found on the islet next to Ulkotammio, where the fishing rights of the locals are hacked into the stone. The long history of fishing in the Gulf of Finland is evident in the ice fishing shanties that can still be found on a few of the islands. They are small shanties on skids, 4 to 6 metres square in area, that fishermen pulled with horses onto the ice in winter. They protected them from freezing winds during the winter fishing season. The concentration of fishing shanties in the area is unique in Finland. The last ice fishing shanty community of recreational fishermen is located in the border zone of Huavari, in its old place in the middle of the open seas. In addition to Huovari, they are only found in Koivuoluito Islet, southwest of Ulkotammio. The island also has a wilderness hut for overnight stays. The most significant threat to the nature of the national park is man. A rise in water level caused by global warming could submerge most of the national park's islands and islets. Eutrophication is the most acute environmental problem in the Baltic Sea. Non-point source pollution and nutrients carried by river water strengthen blue-green algae blooms and cause an increase in thread-like bottom algae in shore zones. Dead vegetable matter that drifts into basins, for one, accelerates oxygen depletion. Since the Primorsk oil port was completed, oil tanker traffic has multiplied in the eastern Gulf of Finland. This has increased the risk of an oil spill. An oil spill would seriously damage the delicate ecosystem of the eastern Gulf of Finland, globally renowned as a unique marginal sea of brackish water. There are also other great destinations worth a visit in the immediate proximity of the national park. The Tammio fishing village has a sheltered port, museum and community house. Courtyards outlined by narrow alleys form an idyllic archipelago milieu. In addition to fishing, shipping has also been practiced in Tammio. One of Finland's first telephone exchanges was installed in Tammio because it was crucial for the shipping business. In the 1880s, the residents of Tammio had up to 13 cargo ships. Haapasaari, in the middle of the archipelago, is an idyllic village with narrow alleys and beautiful flower beds. The island has a sheltered guest pier, the oldest cooperative shop in Finland, and the nature information hut for getting to know the Gulf of Finland National Park more closely. The island can be recognised from the sea by the Coast Guard tower built on top of an old daymark. Kaunisaari Island is also lively in the summer. The unique feeling of an old fishing village and great services attracts visitors. Outside the national park, to the west of Mustavieri, lies Orengrund. A pilot station is on call on the island all year round. At the western tip of Orengrund is a daymark that was originally built in the 1760s. The current daymark was built in 1858. It has been recently renovated to match the original appearance as close as possible. The Gulf of Finland National Park surprises visitors with its diversity and cultural and historical sites where settlement and wars have also left their marks. In the national park, you can explore places protected by the Antiquities Act, learn about the history of fishing, see diverse flora and fauna, and enjoy magnificent views over the archipelago. The national park is ideal for everyone who is interested in nature and history. Places for going ashore, wilderness huts, campsites and campfire sites provide excellent settings and possibilities for visiting the area. During the summer, a regular cruise connection from Hamina to Ulkotammio brings the Gulf of Finland National Park within reach of everybody interested in marine nature.